Okay, so the next thing we want to talk about is the keel. I saw a picture where there's a significant leakage from the keel. Before Dredd left, there was a section of the keel that had broken. The keel had broken along the fastener line where the new bottom was put on. So the keel goes down the center of the boat, and the two halves of the bottom are attached to the keel. So that's the keel right here. Chines are out here. They seem to be in okay shape right now. Chines are out here. Keel is down the center. The keel is shaped like this. And the sides of the boat, we have a layer of plywood, 1/4-inch plywood, and a layer of planks that's a 1/4-inch thick. The planks are a 1/2 inch thick, and so you have your planks coming out here. And so your planks have joints. And all that's held together with 5200 in between the plywood layer and the planks. And you have 5200, I'll draw the 5200 in red. You have 5200 in here and in there, and I'll put the 5200 in red so that you can remember later. So that's all glued together. So, and then we screwed every 2 1/4 inches, I believe it is, whatever the spacing was before. We didn't re-engineer this or do this any differently than when it was built. We put a screw in every 2 inches. So there's a screw through here, and then every 2 inches there was another screw. Your bottom, you're looking at the bottom here. So every 2 inches we put a screw in through the bottom, and it came up through here. And before Dredd left, it was towards the back, as I recall. The keel cracked along this line right here, where the fasteners were, almost like the fasteners were wedges pushing it apart. But really what it amounts to is, the boat's flexing. We might have taken, I don't know, I'm not accusing anybody of taking it out on the ocean, but I know there was interest in that, or some hard waves in the lagoon. I don't know, but this and the age of the boat. I mean, let's be honest. The age the boat is, I think it's a 51, if I remember correctly. So it's 75. The old girl's 75 years old, or roughly that. So it could be that the keel has finally gotten to the end of its life. The back part of the keel was rotted out, the back 4 foot or so, when we replaced the bottom. We replaced that back 4 foot with new keel, and the rest of the keel appeared to be in good shape. So so I really can't answer to what's happened there, but we don't normally change the keels. What's happening to these boats, though, is that they are getting older, and the older they get, the more parts we have to replace. We're having to replace a lot of ribs on the last several boats that we've done, and we had to replace part of a keel on a boat. Just like we had to do on this one, it's part of the keel on this one. So it's apparently time for an entire keel replacement. So the way that's done is the boat is turned upside down, Well, we got hard chines. Just a minute, let me do that right. We don't have round chines. We have what's called hard chine. So with the boat upside down, once again, and we recently did a boat, it's a 1988 Hacker, and we recently did a boat, did the same kind of thing on a boat. So here we go, here's the chine, it's a structural member back here, and they come to the keel, and that's a structural member. Of course, our boat's upside down, so I'll draw the keel in again in a different color. Well, let me get this, let me go ahead and get this side done. And that's about as symmetrical as I can make it by hand. And then, so the keel, the shape of the keel, I'm gonna put it in a different color. The shape of the keel is this. And all that's keel. And then the other layers at the bottom, you got a plywood layer and you got plank layers, and that makes your bottom. So what we did on this other boat is we cut the garboard plank off. We just cut it and took it away from the keel. We took all this area right here and just took it out. We did not take out the frames. The frames, there's a frame that, the frames do this number. But, excuse me, they don't do that number. They leave what's called a limber hole right here. Actually come up just a little bit more right there. All right, so this is your frame in red. So we leave all the frames, and we take out the keel, and we take about 6 inches of plank out on this side. Then we also take, and we take a router, and we route away the outer plank for about 3 inches. That's a bunch of passes, but we route away this outer plank for about 3 inches on each side. Now remember, all this is gone in the center. Maybe I should just go ahead and erase all this right here so that it's not confusing. That's all gone. That leaves, all this has left the building. That's all gone. And all that remains here is the frames where the keel sat. And I've got some pictures. I'll send you and show you some of the work we did on this Hacker. So then we would come back and put a new blank keel on. So, and it'll be, I say blank keel, it'll be keel stock. It'll be square like this. And then we put a router on the frames, and we route this shape into the keel. We take that away. And then we come over here and we route this side. Yep, down a little bit farther. We route this side and take this part of the keel away. Then we come back and we put our our plywood in. Oops, hang on a minute. And of course, the keel stock goes in all the way down to the frames, duh. Okay, there we go. And then we route this about even with the plywood. Yeah. And then we come back and we put plywood from this location. That's where your plywood ends. We put a strip of plywood in. We glue that all in. And then we put what we call a batten on the back side of that. We'd make that out of mahogany. And then we put new planks on. We would put so then we have this area here where we have this. If we put a plank right here, then we're going to cover that joint, and that joint's covered on the back side as well, and that's all new keel. And then we put a new plank on, and let me put it in a different color here. I got some purple. And so we put a new plank on, and voila, you've got a new keel, and your bottom, all the money you spent on your bottom is now worth it again. So a couple of things that can happen to the keel. The keel can be oil soaked before or after. When it's oil soaked before, we use degreaser and we clean the keel. And I specifically remember doing all that. But we know this keel has been oil soaked since that the oil leakage in the boat, that was what caused an engine rebuild recently. All of that will release the glue. This line would have never split open if the glue in here had stayed intact and hadn't become oil soaked. So it's generally oil soaked enough to start with, but we've managed to, on all the bottoms we've done, we've managed to get it cleaned off enough that this hasn't ever happened to us. So I can only imagine that it's the oil soaking that it got afterwards. Again, the old girl's 71 years old. So, I got new hips. I'm 70 and I got new hips. So my bones, just like the bones on this old girl, we're suffering. So that can be fixed. The stringer job is probably fairly inexpensive. This is going to be more expensive. Just replacing the keel on this hacker was about $12,000. So I would imagine that we could send a couple people down and do that for $12,000 US. The engine stringer, we could do that at the same time. That's $12,000 US, and that's them eating at the chow facility with like maybe one nice meal every day. But I don't think I ate. I think I ate mostly at the chow facility. So an occasional nice meal in the main lodge would be wonderful. And then some maybe stay in the bungalow. We can put 2 people in the bungalow, or you can put 2 people somewhere else if you need to. Whatever is most profitable for you. But that's what we would do, and that's what needs to be done. There is not a temporary, we try to do a temporary repair, and of course, Dred did, and that was to put a cap on top of this. Well, yeah, on top of this, all the way down, which would of course then cover this. If you got a crack that's cracking through here, and we put a big flat piece of wood on top of that, then of course we're putting that crack together. Shown from an end view, if here's where your crack is, and of course it's going all the way down the keel, although it wasn't at first, but it is now. Then you put a cap on that and you glue that cap on, then this should not separate right here. But apparently it did. So anyhow, and again, if this was oil soaked, if we hadn't gotten all the oil out of it, then the temporary repair wasn't going to be very effective. So hopefully you can hear all that, and go ahead and give me your reaction to this when you get it, and we'll talk to you soon. Thank you.